Hello guys and welcome to today's session. Today I am going to introduce you guys to Intune. So this is going to be a level 100 introductory nugget, and in this nugget I'm not going to talk about the how part. We are only going to discuss the whats and the whys, what exactly Intune is and why do we need to use it. I am aiming to deliver in this nugget information so that you guys are aware that this product exists and we can leverage it. I will try to elaborate on the functionality of this product, its use cases, its advantages, and why we exactly need it in today's modern cloud world. Okay, so all right, let's just get started. So let's just look at today's agenda. First, we are going to talk about what exactly device management is and why do we need device management. Then we will talk about the need of Intune, which is a cloud-based device management product from Microsoft. Then we will talk about what exactly Intune can do, why to make use of this product, and the various use cases of this product. And then we will talk about life cycle of a device in Intune and life cycle of an application in Intune and how Intune integrates with various other services of an operating system. Then we will deep dive and talk about Intune's architecture and what exactly is app management and what exactly is device management, the two pillars of Intune, and which one to choose and when to choose which one. So we will be discussing what exactly MAM is, what exactly MDM is, and how to make that choice, how to make that decision of which one we are to implement in our organization. Then we will talk about the design consideration which we must keep in our mind while implementing Intune into our organization, the device platform consideration, and finally, we will talk about the requirements or the prerequisites that needs to be in place before we can actually go ahead and make use of this wonderful feature from Microsoft. Okay. All right. So guys, first let's just start with device management because that's the base. Intune is actually a device management product. So this is quite basic. We have been using device management products since like forever. May that be for on-prem, may that be SCCM, or may that be any other kind of device management product. So we already know what device management is, but just a kind of a recap. A key task of any administrator is to protect and secure an organization's resource and data. This is actually device management. Users have many devices from which they open personal files, visit their personal websites. In their devices, they install applications and games. The same user uses or might use the same device to access corporate data. So it is the IT admin's responsibility to make sure that the device that the user is using to access the corporate data as well as to access the personal data is secured, as well as the data is secured. So device management enables organizations to protect and secure their resources and their data. So this goes without saying that device management used for protecting and securing organizations' resource and data. It facilitates work data accessibility from personal devices. So as I said that a user might be using his personal device to access the corporate related data. So if the data is managed, then the user would be able to access that data. If the device is managed, then the user would be able to securely access the data as well as make sure that the device from wherein he is accessing the data is secured as well. The use of device management is making sure that sensitive work-related data is secured in personal devices as well as in corporate devices. We need device management because we might want to, the IT admin might want to manage various attributes of a user's device. They might want to make sure that the user's device must not have a specific functionality. And the only way he can use that, or only way the IT admin can enforce that, is by using a device management solution. Let's just say that I'm the IT admin of an organization and I have given 1,000 laptops to my employees. I don't want my employees to use, let's just say, webcam in their laptop, or any inbuilt feature in their laptop. So if I want to limit users' accessibility on a device, I have to use some kind of device management product. Traditionally, we have been doing this by using something called a group policy. So let's just say that all my 1,000 laptops are joined to a domain. So traditionally, the Active Directory admin, or the AD admin, would be making a group policy, and he would be enforcing that group policy onto all the devices in an OU, and he will be enabling or disabling a feature in the device. That was 10 years back. Now comes the cloud environment, wherein the users are using their personal devices, which are no longer joined to the domain, wherein the users are using their mobile devices, which cannot be joined to the domain. Therefore, we need a modern management to manage the devices, and that is wherein Intune comes into the picture. So as I said, managing the applications as well as managing the device functionality. So earlier we used, let's just say, something like group policy or SECM to manage the applications, to push applications onto the devices, as well as to manage the various attributes of the device, and making sure that the device in the organization are compliant to organizational policies. Let's just say that the IT admin wants that the devices should have a specific password, a specific kind of password, a specific level of patch, then the device is adhering to that condition. So that is what the basic crux of what device management is, and why do we exactly need device management. Goes without saying that we need device management because we only want authorized individuals and devices to get access to company information or proprietary information. We don't want anybody and everybody to have access to the corporate data from any and every device which might not be meeting company's standard. So we want to pass the requests of the users or requests of the devices via a filter, and make sure that only a specific kind of requests are able to reach our corporate data. So we just want to secure the data as much as possible. That's the basic reason behind using any kind of device management. Also, another use of making a device management, another reason behind using a device management feature is making the users feel at ease. Let's just say that IT admin is making use of something like a conventional method like SECM or a group policy or something. So what the IT admin, not only the IT admin would manage the device, but he would push a specific kind of application or a patch to the device. What that would essentially do is the user will not have to, let's just say, install an application onto the device, or patch his device, or install or configure his device. The IT admin from the backend will take care of it. The IT admin would from the backend deploy patches, deploy OS images, deploy applications, and it would seamlessly get installed on the device. And the end user's experience would be seamless and easy. That's one of the other reasons why IT admins make use of device management products or device management softwares, to minimize the end user's interaction, or let's just say that to minimize the end user's efforts which he has to put in order to configure his device or in order to access a specific application. And finally, from another reason of making use of device management software is making things zero touch or automated. So let's just rewind 20 years back. If we had to, let's just say, image 10 computers, if the IT admin had to build 10 computers. So the way he would do that is he would get the operating system image on a pen drive. He would physically walk to that 10 computers, plug in the pen drive, and then boot the computer using that pen drive, and then image that pen drive, deploy an OSD image or deploy an application, whatnot. With the use of device management softwares, like let's just say with the use of SCCM or with the use of group policy, the administration is centralized, which means that the IT admin will no longer have to walk to that device in order to control that device, or the end admin will no longer have to walk to the user in order to provision that user with a specific kind of functionality. So let's just say that there are now let's just say that we have got 1000 users with 1000 devices and they are joined to the domain. I can make use of a conventional product like SCCM or group policy and deploy a policy, and the end users will be getting an application. I no longer will have to walk to that user, provide him with a pen drive or a USB and tell him to plug it in and install that application, double click on it. So we won't have to, so it eases the administration from IT's point of view, as well as it eases it removes the overhead from the end users as well. They no longer have to worry about it, and they know that everything is going to be seamlessly taken care over at the backend. So that is the basic reason behind using any device management product, and we already know about it. This is nothing new. It has been happening since ages. We already have been managing the devices, and this is nothing new. What is new is this: device management over the cloud. Now let's just talk about why do we need device management over the cloud. So and up till now everything was fine. The devices were getting managed and the devices were joined to the domain. But now comes an era wherein all the devices are not joined to the domain. So if all the devices are not joined to the domain, we cannot make use of traditional device management techniques like, let's just say, group policy, or like, let's just say, SCCM, for which the prerequisite is, unless and until we are talking about a hybrid scenario, for which the prerequisite is that the device needs to be joined to the domain. Now we have devices which only and only have access to the internet, or let's just say now we have devices like mobile phones, or it's an era of mobile devices. Now we have Android phones, iOS phones, tablets, which only have access to the internet. And most of these mobile devices are personal owned. They are not company provided. So earlier when we were talking about a phase wherein the IT admin needed to manage 1000 devices, those devices were provided by the company and the users were making use of those devices to access the company data. Now the users are using their own personal devices to access the company data. They want to be able to access those company resources on the fly. They want that functionality that they should be able to access their emails, their work related emails, from their personal phones, even when they are not in the organization. So these personal phones also needs to be protected, and the data in these personal phones also needs to be protected. Therefore, as we cannot join these phones or these mobile devices to the domain, and these devices only have access to the internet, we need a solution wherein we should be able to protect the data and protect the devices which are present on the internet or over the internet. That is what exactly management of devices over the cloud is, and that is what exactly we are trying to achieve using Microsoft's product called Intune. So the main need of having a management product over the cloud is to facilitate access to corporate resources over the internet, and not just access over the internet, to facilitate secure access over the internet. So using a cloud management product like Intune, we can secure the access of a user or of a device which is trying to access corporate data over the internet. We want to manage the devices without any dependency on the on-prem infra. So again, let's just rewind 10 years back, wherein we were managing 10 or thousands of devices by, let's just say, a conventional method or an MDM, like let's just say SCCM, or using group policy. So in order to achieve that, the IT admin or that organization would have to maintain an on-prem infra. They will have to have a set of domain controllers which are going to not only take care of the authentication part, but also which are going to host the ntds.dit file, which is going to contain all the group policy objects and the policies that we are going to create. We also need to have all the authentication mechanism. We also need to have a networking infrastructure in place in order for the authentication to happen and in order for us to be able to manage these devices. However, with the advent of cloud management, now we no longer need any on-prem infra. Now the authentication can happen over the cloud, and the policies can also be deployed over the cloud. So we no longer need an on-prem infra. We no longer need servers wherein our policies will be stored. We no longer need a software we no longer need to install any software on the servers hosted on the on-prem, which will be used to manage the devices. So like, for example, traditionally we had SCCM servers. The servers had the OSDs and the servers had their own databases. We need to have a hell lot of servers. We need to have a hell lot of database admins taking care of those databases. No longer needed anymore. All we need now, everything has moved over the cloud, and the devices can seamlessly be managed over the cloud, and they can be and the applications can be provisioned to the user. So the whole need of using an MDM over the cloud is to reduce the dependency on the on-prem. The organization no longer needs to invest on the on-prem infrastructure, no longer needs to build servers, no longer needs to install any heavy-duty MDM softwares and the database, and need to have admins who are going to support those databases or those applications. And most importantly, no longer VPN is needed. So for example, traditionally, if we had, let's just say, an LOB application, and the end user, let's just say that I am an organization and I have developed my own line of business application, which is used by my organization only. So traditionally, if any user is trying to access that application when the user is not within the organizational's premises, then from any laptop or from any computer, he would have to make use of a software called a VPN, by which he would be tunneling into the organization. But how about this? How about we make this application present on the internet? If we can make that possible, if we can integrate this product to, let's just say, something like an Azure AD, or let's just say something like not Azure AD, if we can integrate this product to Azure, then the end user will no longer have to connect to the on-prem infra and no longer will have to VPN or tunnel into the on-prem infra. The end user is always going to have access to the internet, and if the end user has access to the internet, the end user can use can always reach the Microsoft's Azure cloud and can access that LOB application. So again, what this does is it simplifies the management of the application. The application no longer needs to be present on the on-prem. We no longer need to have the servers on-prem. We no longer need to have the heavy duty MDM products or group policies or something like that on-prem. We no longer need to have a VPN infrastructure because the end users are no longer tunneling into our organization. Everything is present on the cloud. If the user has access to the internet, the user will be seamlessly able to access the application and have secured access to the data and have his devices managed. So right till now we have discussed about what exactly device management is and what exactly cloud device management is. So one of the ways of accessing cloud management, of cloud device management, that is device management over the cloud, is by using Microsoft's product of managing devices over the cloud, which is called Intune. So Intune is a cloud-based service. It's a SaaS application to be exact. It is an application which is sitting on the Azure cloud, and as I said, it's a cloud-based service in the enterprise mobility and management space. So traditionally, we had something like group policies or group policy objects. We no longer have group policy objects in the cloud world. The same is in a way replaced by Intune. So whatever we tried to implement using group policy, I mean, the main aim of using something like group policy was managing the computers and the servers, right? So we are trying to achieve the same thing using Intune. We are pushing policies to mobile devices and to laptops and to computers, and we are modifying the configuration of the devices, and we are managing those devices. So in a way, we are achieving what we would be achieving by using group policy. And the best thing about Intune is no on-prem infra is needed. Everything is there on Azure. All we need to do is we need to sign up for it, and we have a console. We have a web-based console. All we need to do is go to a URL, and we can manage thousands and thousands of devices using that URL. So traditionally, like, we had to install a software like let's just say SECM, wherein we had to install a heavy duty software and the database, and then we used to log into the server, open up the console, and then manage the devices. We no longer have to do that. The software is installed on the Azure. All we need to do is go to a website, a URL, open up that URL, sign in with our credentials, and we will get a portal which we can use to manage our devices. And the bottom line here, the bottom line of using Intune is same as using any device management product. That is ensuring at all cost that the data is protected. So guys, now let's just talk about what we can exactly do using Intune. Again, this is just a 100-feet view of what we can achieve. There are so many things that can be implemented using this product, but this is just the basic crux of it. And if you are trying to implement either or any or all of these things, or if you're trying to if you're looking for a product via which you can do any or either or all of these things, then Intune would be the right choice. So the most common use case is trying to protect the on-premise email and the data so that it can be accessed via mobile devices. So let's just say that we have our own Exchange servers in our on-prem, which is hosting the mailboxes of users. Now we want to make sure that the end users are, when the end users are trying to access the emails, when they are outside the organizational premises, they should still be able to access the emails securely. So we don't want to limit the access of the end users to the corporate data from the corporate devices only. We want to facilitate the end users to have the option of accessing the resources from their personal devices outside the corporate boundaries. However, making sure that the device from wherein they are trying to access, or the application, the corporate application that they are trying to access, is secured and protected at all times. That is something which we can do using Intune. Or let's just say that the users don't have their mailboxes on the on-prem Exchange servers, but they are making use of Office 365 or Exchange Online. In that case also, Intune comes into the picture, and using this product we can secure the users' access as well as make sure that the data which the users are accessing is secured. So we can two things comes over here. The first thing is we are ensuring that the correct user is accessing the resource, and the second thing is even if the correct user is accessing the resource, he is not misusing the resource. So he is not leaking the data, he is not moving the data from a protected location to an unprotected location, or he is not leaking the data in any way. Now, obviously, it goes without saying that if the user is within the company premises, or if the user is using a corporate provided device, then the device can also be protected, the device can also be governed, the device can also be managed. Meaning that, let's just say that I have given laptops to, as I gave that example, let's just say the company has given laptops to their employees, and they don't want the employees to make use of, let's just say, webcam or any functionality in the device. So any and every functionality in the device, may that be a mobile device or a laptop or a computer, can be managed. Again, if the device is BYOD, that is if the user is bringing his own device, and if it's not company provided, in that case, if we don't want to manage the device, but we just want to manage the application in the device, that can also be done using Intune. We can enable our employees to securely access Office 365 from an unmanaged app, from an unmanaged device or a public device. Let's just say it's their it's a kiosk device, or let's just say it's their personal phone. And then we can configure the various parameters of the device. So I mean, I hope that by now we have had a basic understanding of what exactly Intune is, and why exactly we need to make use of Intune, and not just Intune, why exactly we need to have a device management software or a device management feature in our organization, and why in today's scenario that device management feature or the device management solution needs to be on the cloud. It is incumbent that the device management solution is on the cloud, because we don't want the users to have limited accessibility. We don't want that the user should only be able to access the devices or access the work data when they are inside the organization. We just want to have them the access to the organization's data whenever and from wherever they want to. However, giving them the access is the easy part, but making sure that their access is secured and the data is secured whenever and wherever is the hard part. So that is what we are trying to achieve using this product. So as I've already said, managing access to corporate resources from mobile devices or personal devices, preventing the leakage of the data, managed devices and apps in unmanaged devices. What is managed device and an unmanaged device? We will come to that in a bit. And as I said, people nowadays expect that they should be able to use any device they want to at any time to do the work related task. They want that they should be able to access their emails from their personal phones as well. They don't want to switch on their laptop, or they don't want to open their laptop, or they don't want to go to the office every time they want to check the emails, or every time they want to access a work related document. They want to have that functionality of being able to access any corporate data from their mobile device. So it's our responsibility, us as an admin, to make sure that that device as well as that data is protected and secured. And again, if we are making use of Intune, we don't need to have any on-prem infra. We don't need to manage any heavy-duty MDM software, or we don't need to manage a whole lot of servers and databases linked with those servers. Everything in this case is on the Azure cloud. All we need is we need to sign up for that. We need to register our domain if we want to. We need to create our users, and then we can manage everything on the fly over a URL and a web browser. And then again, there is a single console for all the policies. So there are no different policies, no different consoles for different policies. From the same policy, from the same console, we can deploy different policies, and from the same console, we can manage our mobile devices. May that be Mac, may that be iOS, may that be Android, may that be Windows. everything is centrally managed. That brings us to the question of what exactly MDM and MAM is. So, as I have been saying, that we can, okay, so now let's just, if I have to, or whenever users reach out to me and ask for an explanation on how exactly Intune works. So right now what we have been talking about is why we need it. But if I may give you guys a basic background of how exactly Intune works, then the Intune product's functionality can broadly be classified into two parts. The first part would be something called MAM, and the second would be something called MDM. So MDM stands for Mobile Device Management and MAM stands for Mobile Application Management. And these two terms are self-explanatory if we closely look into this. So let's just say that the company has provided 1000 devices to their end users, and I as an admin want to make sure that I am able to manage all these 1000 devices. Then in this case we are managing the device. So the solution that we are going to use or leverage out of Intune is MDM, or Mobile Device Management. It's an conventional approach, like it's equivalent to managing a device using group policy or managing a device using let's just say SCCM. However, we are now managing it over the cloud. So in this case, it's not limited, the existence of the device is not limited within the organization. The device can travel outside the organization as well. As long as the device has connectivity to the internet, the device can be managed. Like, however, in the conventional approach, the device needed to be part of a domain and within the organization in order for us to be able to manage it via group policy, or in order for us to be able to manage it via, let's just say, SCCM. So that is MDM, or Mobile Device Management, wherein we are managing the device. We as an admin want to make sure that, okay, the end user should not be able to use the camera, or the end user should not be able to use the device if their operating system is less than, let's just say, 10.0, or if their operating system, or if they're not using Windows 10 1803, or they should not be able to install a specific application in their device, or let's just say their device should be in a kiosk mode wherein they should be able to use only one application in their device. So what we are essentially doing here is we are managing the device. We are managing a particular attribute of the device. So that is MDM. Now, let's just imagine a scenario wherein the end users are accessing the application like they were before, but now instead of accessing it from a company provided laptop or a company provided phone, they are using it from their personal phone or from their personal device. So a good example of this would be, let's just say user is trying to access his email from a personal device. That email can be present on the office, on the Exchange Online, that is on the cloud, or that email can be present on the on-prem. Whatever the case may be, if the end user is accessing emails from his personal device, then the first approach would not be applicable, because obviously if I am trying to access my work related email from my personal device, and if the IT admin implements the MDM solution onto my device, then that essentially means that my device is managed by the IT admin. But I wouldn't want the IT admin to have the functionality or to have the authority of managing my personal device. So in that case, the IT admin makes use of or leverages a category or leverages a functionality of Intune called MAM, or Mobile Application Management. Using Mobile Application Management, the IT admin manages a application in the device, and not the entire device on the whole. What this means is the IT admin can govern, supervise, and put in policies which would affect how exactly the end user's experience is going to be when he goes into a browser or when he opens up an Outlook and tries to access an email which is his work related. But as soon as he exits that application or as soon as he exits that browser, there are no longer policies which is affecting his device. So it will be as good as when he's using a specific application, that application is managed by the device and the policies are working. However, apart from that application, the policies are not touching any other attribute of that device. This is typically applicable on BYOD kind of scenarios, or bring your own devices kind of scenarios. And if we logically think about it, it would make sense, because if we are making use of, let's just say, MDM, which obviously is more restrictive, because using MDM we are not only managing the applications in the device, but we are managing the device on the whole as well. And it actually gives the IT admin the ability of doing a factory reset of the device. So what the IT admin can do is, on the click of a button, the device will be factory wiped and it will be restored to the factory version. But if the end users are using their own devices, firstly, the end users won't want to give the IT admins the ability of factory wiping his device. And secondly, the IT admin wouldn't want to have that overhead or that burden of having to manage his devices if the devices are not company provided and if the devices are owned by an individual. Because tomorrow if the data goes missing, it would be the IT admin's fault, especially if the device is an individual's and not company provided. So I mean, it is very important for us to understand the difference between MDM and MAM over here. So I would call these the two pillars of Intune. And whenever we are working with Intune, it either comes into the first category, that is MDM, or it comes into the second category of MAM. There is no third category. Well, there can be a third category wherein we are making use of MDM plus MAM, but let's just not complicate things. So for now, the only two possibility here is the IT admin having the ability of managing everything in the device. What is the application installed in the device? How is that application going to behave? How is that device going to behave? That is MDM. And the second is a specific application or specific applications installed in the device. So how is an application going to behave, or how are two applications in the device going to behave and interact with each other? However, anything and everything else in the device are going to be untouched by the Intune policy. And MAM is actually one of the important selling points of Intune, if I may say that, because there are many, Intune, as I said, is a device management solution, and there are many other device management solutions as well in the market other than Microsoft's cloud-based product called Intune. But this MAM scenario or MAM functionality is provided, I don't think it's provided by any other solution. So this MAM functionality of Intune gives the IT admin an ability to manage just an application in the device, and it is far widely used because it gives the end user an ease of mind that even though his data is secured, the device is not managed by the admin in any way. The admin cannot make any changes to the device, or the admin's supervision is limited to one application in the device, but not to anything else. The worst the admin can do is wipe the company related data from that device's application, but not touch anything else in the device. So this is like, so I hope that we have now understood the basics of what MDM and what MAM is. And as I said, it is self-explanatory. MDM is mobile device management, wherein we are managing the device itself and anything and everything in the device. However, MAM is wherein we are managing a specific application in the device. We are not managing the device per se. So guys, now let's just talk about Intune architecture and take a look over how exactly this whole concept of device management over the cloud using Microsoft's Intune product fits into a picture. So let's just say that we have a mobile device, and this mobile device can be Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, any version of Windows 8.1 or later, not Windows Server as of yet, but any mobile device which has access to the internet. Let's just say that this device is that. So the management console, as I said, is a web console. So we don't need to install anything on any server. All we need to do is we need to sign up for this product called Microsoft Intune, and we need to access this Microsoft Intune product from a web browser. So all we need to do is open up our Internet Explorer or Google Chrome or any browser, and then go to the Microsoft Intune website, and from there we can manage all the devices and the applications that our organization has. And we do that from a web console. Over here we have Microsoft Intune. As I said, Microsoft Intune is a SaaS based application or software as a service based application present inside the Azure cloud. So this is our Azure cloud, and inside the Azure cloud there are many SaaS based applications. One of the software as a service which Microsoft provides for managing devices over cloud is Microsoft Intune. And Microsoft Intune is very closely interlinked and related with the Azure Active Directory. So over here we have the Azure AD, and Microsoft Intune is closely linked with the Azure. So from this web console, the admin makes policies and the admin deploys applications. So the admin would log into the console ideally, and he would go to the portal. He would create a policy like normally we would create a policy, let's just say from a group policy editor or from SCCM or from any other management console. And that in the background actually does a Graph API calls. So Graph API calls are like REST API calls. It's what is working at the background, which we can see using a tool called Graph Explorer. And then that protocol is actually used to go to the Microsoft Intune and then create policies over there. So as I said, there are two pillars in Intune. So there are two kinds of policies. Broad segregation would be there are two kinds of policies that an admin can possibly make using Intune Web Console. This is again a very broad segregation. If we drill down into it, there might be subcategories and subcategories. But right now I'm dividing it into two segregation. The first would be device related and the second would be application related. Device related segregation is the MDM part of it, which targets a specific user's device. However, the application related policies targets the MAM section, which is implemented on a specific application attributed to a user. So we can configure a device which is related to the MDM. We can make policies and profiles and configurational profiles. So for example, a configurational profile over here would be shutting down the camera in the device. That is something which we would be making under, this is MDM. Okay, so let's just say this is MDM. So a typical example of making a device profile in MDM for Microsoft Intune would be making a profile over here which says that the user should not be able to use their camera. However, the another kind of policies that we can make is MAM So this is MAM, and it targets a specific application. So let's just say that I'm making a policy for MAM for, let's just say, Outlook. And in that policy, I can define that if a user is using Outlook, he should not be able to copy paste the data out of this application. So when the user is, let's just say, opening up Outlook and configuring it with his work related email, and if he's opening up an email and if he's trying to copy something from the body of that email and trying to paste it to a notepad, he should not be able to do that. So that is a typical kind of policy that would be making from the Intune portal, and that policy would come under the MAM section. So it's going to be something like this. The IT admin is going to launch the web console, and from there he's going to make policies, or device related policies or application related policies, and it in the background will do graph API calls to Microsoft Intune, and then it will make a policy in either the MDM section or MAM section. As I said, Microsoft Intune is integrated with Azure AD, therefore the authentication part is taken care by the Azure AD, or if there is ADFS in picture, then the request is routed to the ADFS server and then to the on-prem domain controller, which takes care of the authentication part. However, as I said, the authentication per se would not be done by Microsoft Intune. The authentication would always be done by the Azure AD stack of it. And as I said, Azure AD is integrated with Microsoft Intune. Therefore, there is a constant exchange of information between these two. So admins and admin will make policies in the Microsoft Intune, and if at any point of time authentication needs to be done, then that is done by the Azure AD stack of it. And let's just say that the admin has created an application over here. So that application is eventually deployed to the mobile device, which is present over here, and it is only connected to the internet. So it is connected to the cloud over the internet. There is no access to the intranet over here. I mean, access over the intranet is not required. Everything is being managed over the cloud. And let's just say that there are 10 applications which have been deployed to the device. So whenever that application is installed, or whenever the device is configured, after that the device sends evaluation report to Microsoft Intune. So the device will report that, okay, I have used this much of data, or I have this application installed in me, or I have this feature disabled in me because of this policy. So I mean, it reports back to the Intune service and notifies, and that is how reporting is generated in Intune service. So this is just a level 100-foot view of what exactly Intune is and how exactly the various components fits into the picture. What MDM is, what MAM is, where the device is, it's there on the internet, how exactly the admin is going to access the portal, what exactly graph API calls are, which is like kind of a REST API calls, which is a protocol which is used to access any information from Microsoft Intune by the admin from the web console. And we are making either MDM policies or MAM policies as an admin on the Microsoft Intune, and Microsoft Intune is integrated with the Azure AD. The authentication is either done by Azure AD or then passed on by the Azure AD to the ADFS, and then applications are deployed from the Microsoft Intune portal or by the Intune service onto the devices. The device gets them installed and then reaches back to the Intune service and notifies, and that is how reporting is done. Okay, so this is actually a snippet from my portal, and earlier we used for managing this web console was actually this web console was called the Silverlight console. So this snippet is from my old console or from my Silverlight console. Now we have changed the framework and changed the display and changed the functionality of this web console, and the new console is devicemanagement.microsoft.com. That's the URL, or portal.azure.com, and that is referred to as the Ibiza console. So over here I have given a snippet of the old Silverlight console because this console is going away, and I just wanted you guys to take a look over how this console looks, or probably by the time when you're looking at it, this console has already been decommissioned. So you guys know that how this console used to look like. But the newer console or the Ibiza console also looks something like this. And as I said, it's the same thing. There is an IT admin who has access to the Intune web console. This is the Intune web console. The Visa console or the Silverlight console, which was the previous one, looks more or less like, I mean, looks the same, and it displays how many devices are being managed by by the portal, and how many devices are in critical state or in warning, and how many policies are deployed, what is the device health, and it gives you a whole bunch of information in a pictorial representation. And then from the Intune web console, the devices are managed. So these are the end devices. They are connected to the internet. This is the admin, and this is the web console. So the web after the web console would be something called the Intune service. So if I have to draw the Intune service, or it would be over here, and the Intune service is integrated with the Azure AD. So the Azure AD is over here. It's also in the cloud, and these are the mobile devices which are reporting to the Intune service, and which are then fetching information in a pull model from the Intune service. I just want you guys to I mean, familiarize yourself with this portal, this one or the newer one, which I'm going to show in a while. This is how exactly, this is a standard portal or a web console. This is exactly how any device management portal or console would be, which would actually show what are the policies that we have made, what are the applications that we have deployed, what are the state of the devices, if any device is in a critical state or in an error state or anything like that. So this is just an overview of an Intune architecture. Now let's just talk about life cycle of Intune. So as an admin, the IT will make policies in the portal. So over IT will, okay, let's just come back here. The IT will come to this web console, and he would create a policy, either a MDM policy or a MAM policy. So when he creates a policy, he actually in the background uses the Graph API calls or REST API calls. This is a protocol that he uses, and he creates a MDM policy or a MAM policy from the background. The end user enrolls their device to Intune. So there needs to be a agent which needs to be installed in the device. So if you remember in the old days of let's just say SCCM, we need to use an we need to install an SCCM client on the machine. So this also more or less works on the same funda, and we need to install a small component, a lightweight component on the device, which takes care of communication with the Microsoft Intune service. So that software, that piece of software is called company portal application. So there is an application called company portal. It is available publicly in App Store and managed Google Play Store. It's a lightweight application. All we need to do, it's a free application, lightweight application. All we need to do is go to the App Store or Play Store and download that application. Once that application is downloaded, the end user just needs to sign into that application, and then this channel would be established between Microsoft Intune and the mobile device. So now the mobile device knows where it needs to go to get the updates or to send the reports, and Microsoft Intune knows that where it needs to go in order to push the updates or push the policies. So um, and that process is called as enrolling the device. So when I say enroll, this is another term which we would be using a lot and which we would be hearing a lot. That is the process of enrollment. So when I say that an end user has enrolled a device, what I mean is end user has installed an application called company portal in his device, and he has signed into it, and an entry of this device has got created in Intune and in Azure, and this device can now be managed using the Microsoft Intune product. So until now, what we have done is that the IT admin has gone to the web portal or the web console, and from there he has created policies, and the end user has enrolled his device to Intune. Once the end user's device is enrolled to Intune, now that device can be managed via Intune. That is, now we can make use of that MDM functionality or MDM plus MAM functionality. So now the admin can push configuration policies to the device. So now he can push a device restriction policy, which would restrict a specific feature of a device, or he can push a Wi-Fi profile or a VPN profile or a certificate or anything from the for the device from Intune portal. The device gets the same and the needed changes are made to the device. The admin can also make a profile for an application. He can push an application for the device, or if he wants, he can push an application configuration policy, which will be used to, or an app protection policy, which would configure how exactly that application is going to behave. And that application policy is going to reach to the device. The device is going to behave accordingly and then report back to the Intune service. And that is how the reporting will take place. Okay, so the device reports back to the Intune service, and the Intune's inventory or the data warehouse house is updated. And then device runs periodic sync. Therefore there is a default time, I believe, for Android devices it is every 6 hours, and for Windows devices it's every 8 hours, if I'm not wrong. And for the first hour after enrollment it is every 15 minutes. So I'll get this looked up. It's there in one of the next slides, but it's almost in the in every 6 or in every 8 hours the device runs a sync with the Intune service. If we are not pushing any policy, or if we are not running a manual sync. So we have a way of running a manual sync. That is, as I said, there is an application called Company Portal which the users needs to install on the device, which acts as that broker or that agent. So we can open up that agent or that broker application and click on sync, which is going to run a sync immediately. If we don't do that, then every device, if connected to the internet, would check in with the Intune service in every 6 to 8 hours. And that is when it gets updated with the latest policies. And then at the end, if the user goes on and unenrolls the device, that is, if he removes the management profile on the application, or if the IT admin from the portal unenrolls the device or initiates a wipe, then all the data from the device is gone. So this is a basic flow or basic steps of how exactly the life cycle of Intune is. First, the Intune admin will go to the portal and make sure that he has given specific access to the end users, so that the end users can enroll their devices. The end user will then install the company portal application and do the enrollment, and then the IT admin will make a specific kind of policy. The policy will hit that device, and the device will target accordingly, and then the device will report back to the Intune service, and the data warehouse or the inventory or the reporting in the device in the portal will be updated, and then the device will keep on running sync in every 6 to 8 hours and fetch the latest policies from the Intune service in a pull model. And then if the user decides to unenroll the device, or if the Intune admin decides to unenroll the device or initiate a wipe, then all the corporate related data is removed. So this is just a diagram or a pictorial representation of how that works. So this is the IT admin, and he has made a specific policy from the web console, that policy over the REST API call. So when he logged into the web console, he created a policy, and using that REST API protocol, it went into the Microsoft Intune SaaS based application in the Azure. The authentication was taken care by the Azure AD, and then a specific profile was created for that user and was deployed to that user. When the end user now the end user is going to enroll his device, he is going to install that company portal application over here, and he is going to log into that company portal application. He's again going to get authorized and authenticated by the Azure AD when he reaches out to the cloud or to the Azure. And the user, as again, does not need to have any access to the corporate network. He just needs to have access to the internet, and the user is authenticated, authorized. The user then is redirected to Microsoft Intune, and then His mobile device is now managed, his mobile application is now managed. So mobile device management, this is part of that MDM stack. Mobile application management is part of that MAM stack. So we as an IT admin can deploy either or both of them from Intune, or we can think of a scenario wherein all the company provided devices in the organization will be MDM managed. However, all the personal devices will be MAM managed. And when I say personal devices will be MAM managed, what I mean is that the devices will not be managed, but the application in the devices will be managed per se. So now let's just talk a little bit more about MAM and MDM. I will not go into the very depth of what MAM is and what MDM is. I have done a separate nugget on MAM and MDM, so please refer to that. But let's just talk a little about what MAM and MDM is and make sure that we are understanding what is the difference, so that we can make that wise choice of which one needs to be implemented in the organization and when. So MAM, as I said, is mobile application management, and let's just say that, and the best example of MAM is if the end users are using their personal devices to access the corporate email, which is present either on cloud or is present on the on-prem. So in that case, the end user, the IT admin, will not be managing the entire device, but will be managing that email application, or let's just say in this case Outlook. So the behavior of Outlook is determined by the Intune service and the behavior of the data within Outlook. But once the Outlook application is exited by the end user or minimized by the end user, nothing is governed by Intune service, no policies take effect. So, and the most destructive or the intrusive thing that the IT admin can do in this case is do a wipe of the data within that application, or remove that data related to the application, or restrict users access to that application. That's the most intrusive and destructive thing that the end user, that the IT admin can do. However, the IT admin in no way can manage the device per se, can only manage the application. So Intune management, application management, or MAM, again, not only the access can be managed, but deployment of application can also be managed. So the IT admin can push applications. So let's just say that the end user is not making use of Outlook, so the IT admin wants that the end user should have access to Outlook, and the IT admin can push policies related to Outlook to the devices. So the end users realm is within that Outlook application. Anything outside Outlook or anything outside that application, nothing can be done from Intune side in case of MAM. So the first point is assigning mobile apps to employees, configuring that app with standard settings that are used when the app runs. Please see here that we are talking about standard settings that are used when the app runs, not the device runs. So once the app is not running, there is nothing Intune can do. Controlling how the corporate data is used and shared in the mobile apps, not in the device, in the app. So over here we are only concerned about apps. We can configure and control each and everything with that application, as long as that application is used and how that application is going to interact with other applications. Removing corporate data from mobile apps, reporting on mobile apps, and tracking mobile app usage. So these are few of the apps. So the list has grown a lot. I've just given a small example of the Office 365 applications, but now there are a lot of applications that we can manage using Intune. I will share that documentation, or please refer to the nugget on MAM, which talks about all the applications that can be used and how to set it up. But these applications can be managed, the data in this application can be managed, we can track the usage of this application, we can do all sorts of reporting that needs to be done with this application. So assigning apps, configuring apps, controlling how the corporate data is used within this application, removing corporate data, updating the apps, patch management. So we can update the apps, we can bring in a latest version of the apps, update the patches of the apps, reporting of the app, tracking mobile applications, app usage. and this would be the app lifecycle. The Intune admin goes to the web console. The web console, when I say web console, I mean the portal, that is portal.azure.com or devicemanagement.microsoft.com, and or the Silverlight portal or the Ibiza console. Please keep these words in mind, and so that we get familiarized with that. I know this is the first nugget, will take some time to getting used to this, but the IT admin goes to the console and then he adds an application. Once he adds an application, he has an option of deploying it to a security group containing users or devices. Once he deploys that application reaches the user. When he is making this when he's adding this application and deploying it, he has an option of configuring this application. So in that applications policy, he can govern how exactly that application is going to behave, whether this application should restrict cut copy paste outside, which would mean that if the user is trying to copy data outside this outside this application, the user should not be allowed to, or that should be logged. Or if the user is trying to save this document in, let's just say, OneDrive, he should be allowed, but if he's trying to save it in any other location, he should not be allowed. Whether that should be encrypted or not, whether there should be a pin on that application or not, whether save as should be disabled or not, and whatnot, and a lot of things. So that is something which the admin is going to configure when he's making that profile, and that application is going to be protected at all times. So if the leakage of data and whatnot is going to be protected because we have already made a configuration. And then when the IT admin wishes to retire that device, when I said device, I mean that the application in that device, then all that data which was related to that application is removed. However, there is no other change that is made on the device. Okay. Now let's just talk about MDM, or mobile device management. Mobile device management is more restrictive, and it usually is used wherein the devices are corporate provided. So obviously it would make sense that if the device is provided by the company, then the company would like to, or the organization would like to have a hold on that device and would like to be able to supervise, manage that device and configure that device at all point and at all cost. It wouldn't like the end users to have the ability of installing and downloading and doing anything at their wish. So usually in that case, we go ahead with the MDM approach, which gives us the ability of not only managing the application in the device, but managing the device as well. So the most intrusive or the most restrictive thing that the admin can do on a device which is MDM managed is let's just say factory wipe it, which is going to remove all the data from the device, and the device is going to be in the factory reset condition. So using this, as I said, we can do PC management and device management. So the only thing that as of now we cannot manage using MDM is Linux, Unix devices and Windows Server operating system. Other than that, we can manage each and everything from the device. And let's just say, and this can also be integrated with a config manager or SCCM. Let's just not talk about that. We will do a different separate nugget on that. But right now, let's just talk about if we have Windows 7, 8.1, Windows 10, any version of Windows 10, then traditionally, as you can see over here, we used to have an Active Directory, we used to have a group policy, and they were managed by System Center Config Manager. This was the traditional approach of managing a Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10 device, and the prerequisite was they had to be joined to the domain. So then again, it was device management, but not device management over the cloud. Now the modern device management is device management over the cloud, and now not only we can manage Windows 7, 8.1.10, we can actually manage Windows 7, 8.1.10 Android devices, Mac and iOS. As I said, we only cannot manage server OS, and we cannot manage Linux and Unix. Then again, this is something on the cloud. Therefore, in this case, the devices were in the intranet. In this case, the devices are on the internet. Okay. So device management it uses the same protocols or APIs, and what it does is there are some APIs in the device's operating system which are exposed and which are utilized uh, by the management solutions. So that is how the changes are made in the device using a product like Intune in this case. And as I said, in this case, we have to enroll the device. So the end user will have to download an application called Company Portal, and he will have to sign into that application. Once he has signed in, a record of that application is created on the Azure as well as on the Intune, and that device is now managed. Once that device is managed, now anything and everything in that device can be controlled using Intune. One thing that I would like to mention here is if we are using an app management or MAM, in that case the device does not need to be enrolled to Intune. So in that case also we will be installing the Company Portal application in the device and signing into it, but we will not be managing the device. So a entry of that device will not be created in Intune, and the device will not be managed, only the application will be managed. However, in this case, we have to enroll the device to Intune, and an entry of this device is created in Microsoft Intune portal in the web console, and the admin can see this device and therefore manage it. So configuring devices, using MDM, we can configure devices to meet the security and health standard. So we can configure the device per se. In MAM, we were just configuring the application in the device. We can provide certificates, Wi-Fi profiles, VPNs. These are just the most basic one. We can deliver a hell lot of things. We can deliver OMA URIs. I mean, by using OMA URIs, we can configure almost each and everything in a Windows device, or I mean, in case of Android and iOS also, we can make use of many other things. We also have administrative templates now, so we can use a lot of functionality there in Intune, and we can deploy a hell lot of device configuration on device restriction policies. Then again, there is reporting, just like in MAM and MDM also there is reporting. So once the device gets the policies, the device reaches back to the Intune portal and reports that it has got this policy, and a report can be fetched from the console. And then again, we can remove corporate data from the managed devices, and then we have the ability of doing a factory reset of the device as well. So device management, on contrary to application management, in device management, we can set up compliance policy also. So we can set kind of a baseline. We can do a baselining and then match the devices with that baseline and find out that whether our end devices are meeting that baseline or not. For example, the best example for this would be, let's just say I've created a baseline for a password. So I can create a baseline saying that all the devices in my organization should have a 10-digit password or 10 characters of password, which would ensure that the devices are secured. If the devices are not having that, then I as an admin can view that and review that and find out which devices are and which devices are not, and can take appropriate action. So we can manage compliance of the devices, we can manage updates of the devices, so we can push patches, push updates for the OS, we can manage device configurations and features and push certificates, we can manage the security, password, PIN, firewall, and whatnot. So any and every attribute in the device can be managed in this case, in case of MDM. And the device lifecycle in this way, so if we relate this with the application lifecycle, in this case the device lifecycle would be, the first part is enrollment. So the end user is going to install that Company Portal application in the device, and once he has installed that application, he will sign into it and the device will be enrolled. On the contrary, in case of MAM, the device was not enrolled. Please keep this in mind. In case of MAM, the device is not enrolled. In case of MDM, the device is enrolled, which gives the admin the functionality of making use of the of governing each and everything in the device per se. So once the device is enrolled, the admin can see that device, push policies to that device and configure that device. Once that policies and configuration pushes to the device as a whole is protected. In case of MAM, only that application was protected. In case of MDM, the device itself is protected. And when the admin decides to retire the device or do a full wipe of the device, all the device's information and all the work related information is gone. So now it brings up the big question. We have two pillars in in Intune. One is MAM and one is MDM. Both can be used in conjunction, but both can be used separately as well. Then that brings that question, which one should you use? If you were to make that determination of whether to go with MAM or whether to go with MDM, which one would you use? Would you go for? Which one would you implement? Again, how to implement that is something which we will be discussing in the future nuggets. But right now, if we have to make that determination of which one should we be using, then how to take that decision? What we need to keep in mind is, what is the solution we are looking for? If we want to manage the devices, then goes without saying we have to go with the MDM approach. However, if we want to manage the applications only and not the device, we have to go with the MAM approach. Again, please keep in mind, guys, in the MDM approach, the device is enrolled. So I'm trying to write an E here. And in case of MAM, the device is not enrolled. So this is enrolled. This is not enrolled and this is enrolled. So if we are trying to manage the devices, we'll have to enroll the device, therefore go with MDM, else go with MAM. Enrolling the device versus management without enrollment. Company owned devices versus BYOD. So almost 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 cases, if the device is provided by the organization, the device is going to be enrolled, because obviously the company is owning that device. So the company would want to make sure, or the organization would want to make sure, that they at all cost, at all time have proper access, have complete access and administration over the device. So if the device is provided by the company, laptop, mobile device, whatever the case may be, 9 out of 10 times we have to go with the MDM approach. If the device is BYOD, if it's bring your own device kind of a scenario wherein the end users are bringing their own device to the organization, and it's their personal device, and we don't want to mess with the device, we just want to protect the data, and we just want to make sure that the data is protected. Other than that, whatever the user wants to do with the device, he should be allowed to do that. If that is the scenario, then we have to go ahead with the MAM functionality. So that is something which we need to keep in mind, that what kind of devices are we trying to target. Intune, at the end of the day, as I've said, is a cloud-based device management product. So what kind of device are we going to manage is the biggest question. If it's a company-owned device and if we want to manage each and every attribute of that device, then we have to go ahead with MDM. If we are just trying to manage an application in that device and not the device per se, because it's not our device to begin with, it's the end user's device, then go ahead with the MAM approach. As I said, MDM or MAM, or MDM plus MAM. So we can use MDM plus MAM as well. So let's just say if it's the end users, it's our company provided device, then we go ahead with MDM, wherein we are managing the device. And if we are managing the device as well as pushing the applications in the device as well, then obviously we're using MDM plus MAM. So please don't get confused with this MDM plus MAM. Let me just call this MDM. Let me just do this. Okay, this should make sense. MAM or MDM, which one to choose? I hope that by now you have had this clear, that it would boil down to the question that what exactly we are trying to manage. Are we trying to manage the device, or are we trying to manage the application in the device? Okay. Choosing the right management is the most, as I said, is the most important thing. Is just a pictorial representation whether we want to manage the device or whether we want to manage the application. So no matter which device the user is using, if he's trying to access Excel, or if he's trying to access Outlook, no matter which device he's using, whenever he's accessing this application, the policy will kick in and it will restrict him from, let's just say, using a cut, copy, paste, or using a save as functionality. However, if I'm using MDM, so no matter which device the user is using, depending upon the policy, the device will be configured as the admin has configured from the portal in case of MDM. So one is device management. So one is device management and one is application management. Also, one of the other benefits of using this Intune's this Microsoft's product of Intune is Intune's integration with secure and protect services. So Intune is integrated with Windows Defender. So when we are making a MDM policy for Windows 10, we can leverage this. We can use Windows Defender. We can leverage. We can choose that whether the device should have the Windows ATP or Windows BitLocker or Windows Firewall on or off. That is something which we can leverage. We can use something called conditional access. So based upon conditional access is something which is not part of Intune, it's a part of Azure. So it does that, it comes under that authentication and authorization phase, which sees that whether the user should get access or not. But this is something which Intune can leverage as well. Intune can be used with something called AIP, or Azure Information Protection. So I won't go into the details of what AIP is, but just for the sake of it, Intune is integrated with AIP and ARMS, and that is earlierly known as ARMS, now called AIP, or Azure Information Protection, or Azure Rights Management, and we can leverage that as well. Intune can be used to enforce BitLocker, as I said, BitLocker, Windows Firewall, Windows ATP. And Intune can also be used with Windows Update Ring or iOS updates as well. So we can push updates to devices as well. That's how Intune integrates with other services. Now let's just talk about design considerations. Let's just say that we have decided that, okay, at this point of time, until now, I hope that you have had an understanding of what exactly Intune is, what device management is, what cloud-based device management is, and why we need Intune, how Intune fits into that picture, how Intune fits into the map, what exactly Intune offers, the pillars of Intune, what is MDM and MAM. And now let's just say that you have made a decision of making use of Intune. Then what are the things that you need to keep in mind before you can deploy this product? These are some of the things which you might want to consider and keep in mind, and then plan the deployment of Intune to your environment. First is identity in the cloud versus ADFS. So let's just say that let's just say that we have an on-prem setup, and now we want to make use of Intune. So so obviously goes without saying that, let's just say that there is a mailbox which the user is going to access, and we want to secure that using Intune. So whenever the user is providing his username and password, the authentication has to happen. Only after that, the policies are going to take effect. Now we have an option of deciding where exactly that authentication can happen. The one way of doing that is that the user will be redirected from the internet to the ADFS server, and then to the domain controller, which is going to do the authentication. The other way is the authentication would be done by the Azure AD. So that is something which we can set up. So if we want that the authentication should be done by the Azure AD, then in our on-prem servers, we have to install something called an Azure AD Connect, which actually syncs everything, all the users and devices from our on-prem to the cloud, all the username as well as the password and the computer objects as well if we wish. So the Azure AD actually does the authentication part. However, if we have set up ADFS, then ADFS can be registered, and then the Intune can be redirected in such a way that, I mean, Azure AD can be redirected in such a way that it goes to the on-prem ADFS to do the authentication. So that is something which we need to keep in mind, that whether we want the identity to be moved to cloud while doing the authentication, or whether we want the identity to stay in our on-prem and then make the determination. MFA enabled. MFA is multi-factor authentication. That is something which we need to decide whether we want to enable MFA for our users or not. So if we enable an MFA, then after they enter the username and password, they will be prompted with a MFA code or MFA call, which they get on their registered devices. We need to, before we implement Intune, we need to evaluate what exactly our email environment is, whether we have our whether the emails of the users who onto which we want to implement Intune are on the on-prem Exchange servers, or whether they have migrated to Exchange Online. If they have migrated to Exchange Online, then we can leverage Intune, obviously. If they are present on the on-prem, then also we can leverage Intune, but in that case we have to set up an Exchange connector which connects our on-prem Exchange servers with the cloud. We have to see what are the other MDMs that are currently in use. The most common example in this case would be SECM. So System Center Configuration Manager, if that is something which is in use, then Intune integrates with that as well. So there is a concept called hybrid and there is a concept called co-management. So I've done separate nuggets on them. So you can refer to what hybrid is and what co-management is. But that is something which we actually have to keep in mind, which we might have to keep in mind while rolling out Intune, that whether we have a working SECM in place or not. If we do, then there are some configuration that needs to be made before. Okay, so if I have a laptop which is being managed by SECM, then now I want this laptop to be managed as Intune, managed via Intune. So if I enroll this device to Intune, the device won't get enrolled unless and until I make some specific changes to the device. Because at one point of time, the device can be managed by only one device management solution. And SECM is also a device management solution from Microsoft, just like Intune. So both can coexist, but for that to coexist there are some configurations that needs to be made, and there is a concept called co-management via which the device can be co-managed, that is managed via Intune as well as via SECM. So more about that on a different nugget, but yeah, that before we implement Intune, we need to evaluate what types of devices do we have, whether we have corporate devices or users' own personal devices. If it is corporate devices, then we might want to implement, go ahead and implement the MDM solution. If it's a BYOD solution, then we might want to sit back and think and evaluate that whether we want to manage the entire user's personal device. If not, then probably MAM would be, or mobile application management would be the way to proceed. Capabilities that we want to use, whether we actually want the capability of managing the entire device, or even if it's a corporate provided device, we might just want to manage the application in the device and not the device as a whole. If that's the case, then we can go ahead with MAM in case of corporate provided devices as well. So it depends upon what exactly you're trying to manage. Device platform supported. So if you're let's just say that if you're trying to manage a Windows server or a Unix or a Linux laptop, that is something which cannot be managed using Intune as of this date. So if that is the case, then obviously you'll have to look for a different solution. However, if you're trying to manage Windows 8.1, Windows 7, 8.1 or later, or if you are trying to manage mobile phones like running with Android or iOS or Windows, that is something which can be managed via Intune. So the device platform that is being used is something that we need to keep in mind while we decide that whether we have to go ahead with Intune solution or not. And then the certificate solution for authentication. So using Intune, we can actually deploy certificates as well. So let's just say that there is a mobile device, and that mobile device obviously is connected to the internet and not the intranet. And now to that mobile device, I need to deploy a certificate from my certification authority or from my ADCS present in my intranet. So using a concept called NDES, we can, or PKCS, we can set up a few connectors and a few servers and some server roles which would actually work as a mediator or a gateway, and then fetch a certificate from our on-prem CA and deploy it to the mobile devices. So if we want to do that, then that is also consideration that we need to keep in mind. There are some added components. Again, there is a separate nugget on setting up of PKCS and SCEP, so you might probably want to take a look over that. But yeah, that is something that you need to keep in mind. Device platform considerations. Obviously, as I said, the supported device platform, I've already mentioned the device platform that is supported by the Microsoft's Intune. So we might want to make sure that these are the devices that we are trying to manage, so that it is so that meets our use cases. Device enrollment types. So there are, I mean, as I said, that end devices, if they are to be managed, they needs to be enrolled to Intune, and there are various ways by which they can be enrolled. Like for example, the end users might have to enroll the devices manually. That is, the end users will have each user will have to go to the App Store or the Play Store and download the company portal application and then sign into it. That's the manual way of doing it. And there is an automatic way of doing it as well. So there is a way by which the end user just has to power on the device, and the device will automatically seamlessly get enrolled to Intune. Nothing needs to be done from the end user's end. That comes as a part of something called Apple DEP or an Windows Autopilot or something like that. So we have separate nuggets on that, but right now there is something which we might want to keep in mind before rolling out Intune and making use of MDM or MAM, that what kind of enrollment type we want to facilitate, whether we want to facilitate a manual enrollment or whether we want to facilitate a seamless enrollment, and then enrollment restrictions, what kind of devices we want to get enrolled to Intune. If we are rolling out Intune and we want that the end users should not be able to enroll any Android devices to our environment, that is, we don't want the end users to make use of Android devices to access corporate resources, then that is something which we can set up enrollment restrictions. We can set up device ownership. Device ownership means who owns the device. So as I said, the devices can be corporate owned, or devices can be corporate or company owned, or the devices can be personal. That is something which we need to keep in mind while rolling out Intune, what kind of devices we have. If we have corporate, then obviously roll out MDM. If we have personal, then MAM. If we have a mixture of both, then use both in different security groups. And then bulk enrollment, which comes with autopilot and which comes with DEP, which is a specific feature of Intune, and we have separate nuggets on that. So now finally, let's just talk about Intune requirements. So let's just say that by now we are convinced that, okay, Intune is the way to go. Intune is providing us everything that we want in order to leverage any mobile device management solution, especially mobile device management solution over the cloud. So what do we need to get started? The first thing that we need, or that the end user needs in order to enroll his device to Intune, is a license. This is all a license based concept. So obviously there is nothing on-prem, right? We are not building any servers. As I said, in contrary to group policy or SCCM, the end user, I mean the IT admin, is not building any heavyweight servers or installing any application. Everything is web portal based. So how exactly are we investing into the product? We are buying licenses for our users. So this is all license based. We can buy in, so every user whom we want to manage, or every device we want to manage, we will have to assign it a license. So we have got user based licenses as well as device based licenses. So we will have to assign a Intune license to that user. Again, there are also various categories and subcategories about Intune licenses, and that's coming up in the next nugget. But just an overview for you guys, we can buy and assign Intune license, or we can buy and assign an EMS license. So EMS is Enterprise Mobility and Security. It's a suite. So EMS contains Intune as well as functionality of Azure and Office. So a few functionalities. So if we want to make use of that, then we might want to assign the EMS suite. The I cannot exactly comment on the cost part. That is something which is variable and which you'll have to check at your point of time. But if we just want to make use of Intune functionality, we can assign the Intune license. If we want to make use of Intune functionality as well as other functionalities from Azure, then we can assign an EMS license. But assigning an license to the end user who is a prerequisite. After that, only the end user will be able to enroll his device. That's the first Intune requirement. The second Intune requirement is setting up of device scope. So device scope is somewhere we determine how exactly the device is going to get enrolled, whether it's going to get auto enrolled or not. And if not, then as I said, guys, if you remember, we have two approaches. One is the MDM and one is the MAM. So this is wherein we make that segregation. So if we were to only make use of MDM, then we will switch off MAM in the scope. And if we are going to make use of MDM as well as MAM, then we can switch on MDM and MAM. If we want to, segregate it in any way, we can assign it to a security group. That is something which the Intune admin has to do. So in short, device scope actually helps us segregate that whether we are going to go ahead with the MDM approach or MAM approach, or in case if we are going with both, then how to segregate it for a security group. If we want, again, so for managing the devices and basic application, all we need is an Intune license. However, if we want to deploy Office application and app protection policy, in that case the user needs to have an Office 365 subscription or an Office 365 license as well. As far as Intune prerequisite is concerned, there is not much prerequisite in case of Android and Windows, but in case of Apple, that is in case of iOS, there is a prerequisite in which we have to generate an APN certificate. So what happens is, let's just try to understand what exactly this APN is all about. Everything is same in case of iOS as well as it would be in case of Windows and Android in case of device management. The only thing which is introduced by Apple in case of iOS is that let's just say that okay, this is the Intune service, and this is the cloud, and this is the mobile device. Okay, so this is the mobile device. Please excuse my handwriting. So normally if this mobile device is Android or Windows, then this mobile device directly communicates with the Intune service. However, if it is an iOS device, then this direct communication does not happen. The communication in that case happens via another component called APN, or Apple push notification. So Apple has made its product, it's also present in the cloud, and Apple has made its iOS products more secure by bringing this into the mix. So what APN does is, Apple has set up an infrastructure wherein no mobile device management solution on the cloud can directly talk to a iOS device. Not just Intune, any mobile device management solution, may that be Intune, may that be Mobile, may that be AirWatch, any mobile device management solution. So the way this works is, Intune service first talks with the APN, and then APN talks with the mobile device. But Intune service does not talk directly with the mobile device. So if there is any update made, then Intune will push it to the APN. APN will notify the mobile device, and then mobile device will pull it from the Intune service. But the Intune service cannot directly reach to the mobile device and notify the mobile device and tell that, hey, I've got an update for you, please come and get it. It has to always go via this APN route. So this is because, well, as I said, Apple does not want any MDM provider to directly have control over their devices. Therefore, they have got this into the mix. So, in case we want to manage iOS devices in our environment, then there is this additional setup that needs to be done. That is setting up of APN. It's very easy. All we have to do is we have to establish this trust between APN and Intune service. So there is a file which we download from Intune service, uploaded to the APN, and there is that it's called a CSR, and then there is a certificate which we get from that Apple Business Manager portal, and we upload it in the Intune service called a PEM file. Once we do that, then the Intune service trusts the APN, and the APN trusts the Intune service. And then that two-way handshake is done, and they both start trusting each other. And after that, once the devices are enrolled, if Intune has to push any policy, Intune will go via the APN route and it will eventually get delivered to the mobile device in case of iOS or Mac. However, in case of Windows or Android, Intune service directly talks with the mobile device once the device is enrolled to Intune. So one of the Intune requirement is setting up of APN certificate to enable iOS device platform management. iOS, and it also goes for Mac. Azure AD Connect, as I already said, Azure AD Connect is something, it's a tool that we need to install in one of our on-prem servers. And what it does is it syncs all the identities from our on-prem to the Azure cloud, to our tenant. And the advantage of doing this is if we don't want the authentication to happen via ADFS, if we want the authentication to be done via the Azure AD itself, and then we have an option of syncing our users, our devices, our computers as well to the Azure cloud. So Azure AD Connect, it's an optional component, not mandatory, but it is something that we can make use of. DEP is used for bulk enrollment. So DEP is something we'll do a separate nugget on DEP. But for now, let's just keep this in mind that if we want to do bulk enrollment of iOS devices, then there is something called DEP token that needs to be set up. So in this case, APN token was set up and the end user went to his mobile device, went to the App Store, installed the company portal CP application, and enrolled his device. If we have 1000 devices and we don't want each user to go to his iOS device and install the company portal application and want to remove that manual intervention of the end users, in that case we can use something called DEP, or device enrollment program, which is provided by Apple, and it helps us to customize the out-of-the-box experience of the devices as well as bulk enrollment of devices. So DEP for Apple is more or less the same thing as Autopilot for Windows. So the same thing is done by Autopilot for Windows. If you want to do a bulk enrollment for bulk enrollment of devices for Windows devices, in that case we have to configure something called Autopilot. And we also have something called VPP, or volume purchase program. It is for bulk deployment of applications to iOS. We won't go into the very details of that, but just for now, please understand that if we have decided to make use of iOS, one of the prerequisites which the user needs to fulfill is he needs to have an Intune license or a license from the EMS suite, and the scope needs to be set correctly on the Intune portal. And if we want to deploy Office applications and want to make use of app protection policy on Office applications, there needs to be a Office subscription license. If we want to manage iOS devices, the APN certificate needs to be set up, iOS or Mac. If we want to sync devices to the cloud, we need to set up Azure AD Connect. If we want to set up bulk enrollment, we have to set up DEP for iOS, and Autopilot for Windows. And VPP is something which is volume purchase program. So there's a pictorial representation for the same. If it's a Windows 8.1 or Windows 10, all the end user needs is a EMS license or a Intune A Direct license. So Intune A Direct license is a license for Intune only, and EMS is a suite. Okay. For Android, again the same thing, EMS license or a Intune A Direct license. No other prerequisite. For iOS and Mac, EMS license or an Intune license, again the same thing. An extra component over here is a APN certificate, which needs to be uploaded in the portal. Again, for iOS and Mac, the end user will have to install and download the company portal application on the device. For Android also, the end user will have to install and download the company portal application on the device. However, for Windows 10 devices, the end user do not need to install the company portal application on the device. Now, if I say the end user don't need to install the company portal application, then it would bring up the obvious question that company portal application was working as a mediator or that broker between the Intune service and the device. So I mean, it was fetching all. It's like that soft client. So like we have in SCCM or any management solution. So if we are not installing that client, then how exactly that conversation is happening between the Intune service and the device? The answer is that it's inbuilt in the operating system itself. So think about it like this way: Windows 10 is a Microsoft's product, and Intune is also a Microsoft's product. So Microsoft has inbuilt the functionality in the operating system itself, so that the operating system does not need any installer file that needs to be installed for it to be able to communicate with the Intune service. So if we want to enroll a Android or a iOS or a Mac device, we have to install the company portal application and sign into it. However, if we want to enroll a Windows 10 device, we don't have to install any application. All we have to do is we have to go to the start menu and then go to settings, and then we have to go to accounts, and then we have to go to access work or school, and then over here click on connect. So if your device is joined to a domain, this shows up. Otherwise, this is my personal domain, which I have named as fareast.microsoft.com for demonstration purpose. However, if you want to join your device to if you want to enroll your device, then this is how you will be enrolling your Windows 10 device. You will click on connect, and over here you will enter your tenant credentials. So over here, let me enter saurav@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. And now this device is already managed, therefore this device is already being managed by SCCM, and as I said, the same device cannot be managed by SCCM and Intune at the same time. Therefore it's giving us this message that your device is already being managed by an organization, because I've already managed this via SCCM. Therefore I've already installed the SCCM client. So unless and until as I said, we don't enable co-management, by which the two management techniques can be used to manage the same device, it won't let us enroll to Intune. But just in short, if we have a Windows 10 device, we don't need any company portal application, just need to do it the way I just showed you. If we have an Android or an iOS device, then we need to have company portal application. In case of iOS or Mac, we need to set up an APN in the Intune portal. In case of Android, we don't. All we need, and in each and every case, the end user needs to have an EMS license or an Intune A-Direct license. Okay, so I hope, guys, that this deck helped you understand what exactly Intune is and how exactly it fits into the picture, and why do we need Intune, and how it fits, how it is an useful product. So guys, as I have said this earlier, I cannot stress this anymore, that we are in an era and an age of cloud. The devices have more and more devices are coming up, more and more. Let me just show you guys this stat. While you go through this stat, which talks about why do we need device management, not only device management, why do we need cloud-based device management? So more and more devices are coming up, and these devices have more access to the internet and less access to the intranet. Therefore, we need a mobile device management solution which would be able to manage the devices over the cloud. And if you are looking for a solution which would be able to manage devices over the cloud, then Intune is the answer, because, well, as I said, it is one of the only products in the market which can provide you the functionality of not only managing the application, that is MAM, it also gives you the functionality of managing the device, that is MDM, and it gives you the functionality of choosing either of these. So if you don't want to manage the device, if you only want to manage the application in the device, you can go ahead and do that and implement only MAM part of the Intune and not the MDM part of the Intune. So I guess I hope guys this has been informative for you, and please go through the other nuggets which would help you understand how to set Intune up if you have decided that okay, this is what you would like to implement in your organization. Then how to set it up is coming on the future nuggets. How to set up the portal, how to set up the policies, how to push profiles, how to administer the devices, what needs to be, what is co-management, how to set that up, that is all coming up. But I hope guys that this helped you understand that what this product is used for, why this product is useful, why this product exists, why to make use of it, and how to make use of it is going to come afterwards. So I guess and I hope guys that this has been informative for you. I would like to thank you for viewing. This is your friend Saurabh Sarkar signing off.